So now we're going to have a look at one of the last sections of the biological approach in psychology, and that is of hormones. So hormones are chemicals that are produced by endocrine glands, such as the pituitary gland, which is one of the main glands of the body. Um, and the endocrine glands together, all the glands together make up the endocrine system. So, in response to a signal from the brain, hormones are secreted directly into the bloodstream by the endocrine glands, where they travel to their target cells or areas in the body and exert their influence by stimulating receptors on the surface or inside the cells. So, the presence of a hormone causes a physiological reaction in the cell, which will then alter its activity. So, if you look at the diagram there, you will see the hypothalamus, you've got the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, thymus, you've got adrenal glands where adrenaline is produced. You've got the testes and the ovaries, the gonads, those glands which produce estrogen, testosterone. You've also got the parathyroid glands, the pineal gland, which is responsible for melatonin, which has got a lot to do with sleep cycle, etc. So have a look at those carefully. You will be revisiting various types of glands throughout the course when you look at biopsychology, when you look at psychopathology, and when you also look at schizophrenia as well as aggression. So it is important to know the different types of glands in the body and what their functions are. We'll now look at the final bit of the biological approach to psychology, and it's that of evolution and behavior and the impact of evolution on behavior. So the man on the left hand side is Charles Darwin. I assume most of you would have heard of him. And Charles Darwin argued that over time, organisms become adapted to the environment through biological evolution. So, this refers to the changes that take place in the characteristics of a population over time. And the mechanism behind biological evolution is what they call natural selection. Individuals within a species differ from each other in terms of their physical characteristics and in their behavior, and at least some of this variation is inherited. So, because individuals must compete with each other for access to resources, for example, mates, food, etc., those who survive this competition and go on to reproduce will tend to have behaviors that are more likely to lead to survival and reproductive success than those who do not. So these behaviors will be passed on to offspring and will become much more widespread in the population through the process of natural selection. Successive generations will develop behaviors that are even more likely to lead to survival and reproductive success. So we talk about this as survival of the fittest. So just to conclude, in terms of the biological approach to psychology, there are a couple of key terms that I just want you to note down as you're listening to this. So you've got the key term, one of the key terms is the biological approach. What is it? It views humans as biological organisms and so provides biological explanations for all aspects of psychological functioning or behavior. The next key term is evolution, which we've just covered, refers to the change over successive generations of the genetic makeup of a particular population. Um, the central idea of an evolutionary perspective is that the genotype of a population is changeable rather than fixed, and that this change is likely to be caused by the process of natural selection. Then, what is it then? Another key term you need to think about is a gene, a part of a chromosome of an organism that carries information in the form of DNA. Genotype, moving on from that, the genetic makeup of an individual. The genotype is the collection of inherited genetic material that is passed from generation to generation. Phenotype being the observable characteristics of an individual, and this is a consequence of the interaction of the genotype with the environment. Then neurochemistry, the study of chemical and neural processes associated with the nervous system.